Many people, mostly in northeastern states, wanted high tariffs placed on foreign goods imported to the United States. However, people in the South who produced less goods opposed these tariffs because it would raise the prices of goods they had to buy. John Calhoun proposed the Ordinance of Nullification that stated that any law a state found unconstitutional could be nullified through special election by the state. In 1832, the state of South Carolina voted to nullify the tariff laws. President Jackson, knowing that if a state refused to obey federal laws, the U.S. would fall apart. He then warned the people of South Carolina that if necessary, he would use the army to enforce the tariff laws. Most Southerners were not ready to break up the Union over tariffs, therefore John Calhoun and Henry Clay worked out a compromise tariff bill that gradually lowered the tariffs. In this way, the Union was preserved.
As his term continued, Jackson truly grew a desire to crush the Second Bank of the United States. Over time, he had decided that it could not continue as it was and that it did not warrant reform. It must be destroyed. Jackson's reasons for this conclusion was an amalgamation of his past financial problems, his views on state rights, and his Tennessee roots. The Second Bank centralized financial might, jeopardizing economic stability. It served as a monopoly on fiscal policy, but it did not answer to anyone within the government above any principal concerns. However, the bank became a political battle. Congress chartered the Second Bank in 1816 for a 20-year period, giving it $35 million in startup funds. A board of 25 directors controlled the bank, but only 5 were publicly appointed by the president, the rest coming from stockholders. The directors controlled branches, invested funds, and oversaw operations. Over time, the bank proved quite good at managing credit and providing profits for the stockholders and government, perhaps too good. In 1819, the bank had caused a financial panic by calling credit from small state banks, forcing many of them into bankruptcy. This panic of 1819 led to such a depression that western regions of the country still suffered in the late 1820s.
In 1830, Congress passed the Removal Act providing money to carry out the Jackson's policy of Indian removal. The first Indians approached were the Choctaws, who lived in central Mississippi. In September of 1830, government agents organized a great conference at Dancing Rabbit Creek in Mississippi. Between 5,000 and 6,000 Choctaws attended. The agents supplied food for the huge gathering. They distributed cloth, soap, razors, and other gifts. They promised the Choctaws land in the West, free transportation, expense money for a year, while they were still settling in their new home, and annual agents to support the tribal government. Any Choctaw who wished to remain in Mississippi as an individual farmer would be given a plot of land. Failure to move, agents warned, could mean destruction of their society. The federal government could offer them no protection. In the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek, the Choctaws accepted these terms. The Indians gave up a battle they could not win. Most were filled with a sadness we could not feel. George M. Harkins, a district chief of the Choctaw Nation, expressed the sadness of his people and the hope that this would be the last injustice toward his tribe. Colonel Cobb, another Choctaw chief, expressed similar feelings. He was one of the last groups to head westward. Here, he addresses a government agent who has come to prepare the tribal for removal. Not many Americans heard or read these sad speeches or knew what they referred. Indians as American allies. Few realized that the Oneida and Tuscarora had fed Washington's starving men at Valley Forge while settlers refused supplies because the army had no money. Few knew Washington had once said, "If these Indians had been our enemies instead of our friends, the war would not have ended in American independence." By the 1840s, scarcely an Indian remained in the southern states. The tribes that were removed had suffered heavy losses. For the moment, the survivors were free to go on their own way, but not for long. Little known fact, Andrew Jackson was actually one of the first 3 presidents to get his photo taken. In Ellicott Mills, Maryland, President Andrew Jackson boards a Baltimore and Ohio railroad train for a pleasure trip to Baltimore. Jackson, who had never been on a train before, was the first president to take a ride on the Iron Horse, as locomotives were known then. One day in 1806, future President Andrew Jackson kills a man who accused him of cheating on a horse race bet and then insulted his wife Rachel. Jackson and Dickinson were rival horse breeders and southern plantation owners with a long-standing hatred of each other. Dixon accused Jackson of reneging on a horseback, called Jackson a coward and an equivocator. Dickinson also called Rachel Jackson a bigamist. What was that?
That was a car.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there are. That's how people go places.
What about the iron horses?
Iron horses?
Yeah.
What's an iron horse?